If you're a Texas landowner and you're interested in improving the quality of the genetics on your ranch, you can contact me at deerandwildlifestories.com. As a deer hunter, I want to know all I can about America's favorite big game animal. That's why I became a deer farmer. Without deer farms, we lose our greatest resource for research and whitetail management. With them, we gain more knowledge than ever before. Join me as we discover the truth about whitetails and meet those who work every day to preserve this great species for future generations. My name is Keith Warren, and this is Deer and Wildlife Stories. So this week, Deer and Wildlife Stories comes to you from South Texas. We're just south of San Antonio, about an hour down outside of a little town by the name of Pearsall at the G2 Ranch.
My name is Don Gilchrist with G2 Ranch in Pearsall, Texas. G2 Ranch is a deer farming operation. We grow deer for the breeder industry, and we hunt deer as well. This is what they call the Frio County is a part of the Winter Garden area. Lots of farming here, peanuts, wheat, corn. So we nearly always have a good crop of dove. And actually, and sometimes our white wing hunting is fantastic. Depends on who gets the sunflowers to come off first. We have dove hunts in September and October, and then we do a December dove hunt, and then we have spring turkey season. We do quite a few turkey hunts and exotics as well. The breeding operation covers about 150 acres with 55 pens, and we currently are housing about 450 to 500 deer in pens. Our ranch is fortunate enough to have, we believe, some of the finest employees in the industry. We have a ranch manager, his wife is our marketing director, and then we have a pen manager, as well as her husband is our outfitting manager. And of course we have a cook, and his wife works as well in the kitchen. That staff, we have 2 young ladies who are interns that are working for us full time, as well as 4 other guys that works in the pens, as well as keeping the maintenance up on vehicles, mowing, and any other extra stuff that needs to be done at a ranch. Katie, our pen manager, is also, she handles all the darting of the deer. She handles all the record keeping. Starts preparing us for getting ready, lets us know mamas that are good, mamas that are bad for AI. She is very involved in GMS and knowing who's who in the industry. She lives and breathes these whitetails. Well, I would like to say that I'm the luckiest guy that ever wore boots. I have a partner and a wife that is just incredible. We've been together for about 4 years now, and I'm enjoying this ranch with her, and it's just incredible to have somebody that has the passion for it as much as I do, and I can't say enough about her. If you'd like to come to our ranch, you can call me, Don Gilchrist, at 903-570-7909, or Anthony Aguirre. He is our ranch manager at 210-419-4442. We would welcome your call and love for you to come see us.
The Deer Farming Channel is brought to you in part by Record Rack Deer and Elk Feeds. All right, so here's a viewer question from somebody by the name of Kim. It's about pasture deer.
Okay.
It says, I hear you talk about pasture deer on virtually every show. Can you tell me exactly what a pasture deer is and why someone would want them? So, a pasture deer is what? It's a released deer.
A pasture deer is a released deer put out there to better your herd.
It's simple as that, you know. We as deer farmers, we're growing some really, really big deer. And I'm thinking, we're wanting to help those people out there that have pastures that don't have big deer. So we sell pasture deer. So if you're interested in pasture deer, any of one of the deer farms that we go to, including right here at G2 Ranch, they're selling tons of them. So give them a call. If you've got a question for me, I'd love to hear from you. Head on over to the website and hit the Connect with Keith tab. All right, so we got a great big pen here. Look at this, and these are 2-year-olds?
2-year-olds.
Is there anything special in here? I mean, look, that's a big deer right there.
Well, we have a couple of deer in here who we have our eyes on to become potential cover bucks and breeder
really?
bucks. Yes, sir.
Well, I see why. I mean, that guy is a daddy-o. So are all these deer, you got pedigrees on all of them?
Yes, sir. Pedigrees on all of them.
So if somebody was to come out here and want to buy some of these stalkers, they go, okay, I like that one and that one. You've got your sheet, because you're big on paperwork. I noticed that.
Yes, sir.
We wound up when she's cutting antlers off and giving medication, she's always got her paperwork. And so that's one thing, deer farmers, we always got to have paperwork. But you could tell somebody who the dam and sire is on any
Yes,
of
sir.
these.
On any of these.
Okay, so how many of these are y'all going to cut the antlers on?
All of them.
100%.
100%.
And you'll do that with your team.
Me and the girls.
And we know that you can get it done. That's for doggone sure. So when you go about doing that, I mean, these pens, these are huge. I mean, you got this pond down here, and I mean, this is like natural habitat.
We try to keep it as natural as possible, so whenever they're 3-year-old, we can put them into our bigger brush pasture and let them learn how to be in the pasture.
You know, and that's important, because you got to keep in mind, these are farm deer, okay? But they're still deer, okay? They still have got great eyes and noses and ears and everything else, but they need to learn how to be a deer out there, out in the wild, out in the pasture. And so by having big pens like this big 2-year-old pen, I mean, with the pond and all this brush and all, and plenty of room to run around, I mean, these guys are, look, I mean, they're starting to feel frisky. I mean,
They are.
This is a time of year that they're starting to feel, ooh, their hormones are changing, and it's for that reason that they're stripping out of the velvet. And but it's nice to be able to raise pasture deer in pens like this, because it assures the person that's buying them that these deer are more than likely going to survive a whole lot better when they're released into your pasture. And so rather than having a bubble, as I call it, I mean, living in a small little pen where they don't have any brush and all, you release those deer into a pasture, a lot of times they have difficulty living, but when they're in a big pen like this with native habitat, they have an excellent chance of surviving. But so did anybody in here surprise you from a yearling to 2 years old?
There was a couple, yes. We have 2 sets of twins in here who actually are pretty big.
Yeah. Well, show me one of them.
Okay, this guy over here, he looks kind of like he has fingers. He's completely rubbed out.
Yep.
He's one of our twins.
Okay.
And his twin looks nothing like him. His twin's whiter.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
So what is amazing is that, I mean, these are womb mates.
Womb mates.
And womb mates, and they got the same genetics, okay?
Same mom and dad.
But they look different. They look different. And that's the cool thing about white-tailed deer. I mean, you've got, how many 2-year-olds are in here?
47.
Out of 47, there's not 2 of them that look alike. I mean, that's the cool thing about whitetails. So, okay, when are you gonna start cutting antlers? As soon as I leave?
As soon as you leave.
Yeah, which is going to be here in the morning. You know, we're going to leave, but coming up after the break, we'll show you how the girls knock the bucks down out here and cut their antlers off, and then we'll show you some big 3-year-olds. If you're in Texas and interested in becoming a deer farmer, you can contact me for deer farming franchise opportunities right here in Texas at deerandwildlifestories.com. It's important to know how much your deer are eating every day. It's for that reason that deer breeders do this. We wind up feeding in troughs, and the reason we feed in troughs is because every day we can monitor how much the deer are consuming. I'm going to show you a little something that I honestly believe has been one of the biggest catalysts in me growing much bigger deer. This is buck developer. You take a look at that right there, it looks like granola. So what I'll wind up doing, I take about 150 pounds of feed in this pen right here, and then I'm going to mix about 1/3 of it with the record rack buck developer. Now we have a trough where everybody has got an opportunity to come up and eat. It's just another day on the farm.
So this morning we're up early before it gets too hot out. We're gonna go knock down some yearling bucks and we're gonna go cut their antlers off and transport them to a new pen. We are doing that so when they rub out, they don't hurt each other. I am using a 22 caliber New Dart dart gun and we're gonna use MK to sedate them. All right, let's go. Okay, I just started that yearling buck, and in about 15 minutes he's gonna go to sleep, and then we're gonna come in here and put a mask on him and cut off his antlers. So the reason that we cut these bucks is because once they go into hard horn, they shed all of their velvet. They're no longer in a bachelor group. They're now looking for ladies, and so we don't want them to hurt each other and to stick each other and gore each other, so that's why we cut their antlers off. So if you notice, we have their heads pointed away from the fence, and that's so when we wake them up, that they run away from the fence and not into it. I'm just getting some bands out. We're gonna put bands around their antlers to go ahead and stop the blood flow to the rest of the horn so they don't bleed as much. Okay, we just finished putting the bands on. Got to wait about 10 minutes for those to stop the blood flow. In the meantime, we're going to take pictures for records and give some shots to them.
This deer is finished, we're going to move on to the next deer.
We cut the horns off because as they rub out, they get to where they want to rub and fight each other, and we don't want that happening because somebody's going to lose. And we don't want to lose a deer because of punctured lungs or punctured whatever. We want to go ahead and cut them and let them have a good winter without fighting.
We are going to use silver spray to protect any bacteria or anything from going in his antler cut.
We've gotten everything done. We've cut his antlers and she's reversing him right now.
So far, everything's going good. Just another day on the farm.
All right, so we've shown you some of the deer here on this particular piece of property, and we'll show you more coming up in just a little bit. But coming up, we're gonna introduce you to 3 different bucks: Willie, Waylon, and Enterprise, and they'll blow your mind.
The first 3 or 4 years that we were in the breeding business, we had some really nice bucks, but we felt like that if we was going to be in the top 10 in the industry, that we needed to partner with somebody that had the best that there was in the industry. And we partnered with Dovey Sand on some bucks, and then we moved on and partnered with High Roller. And we felt like if we partnered with the best of the best, our chances would be better of having some of the best bucks in the industry. And that was our thinking. We partnered with High Roller because we felt like that Enterprise was very neat. He's out of Blue Chip, which is one of my favorite bucks in the industry.
When you get an opportunity to look at Enterprise, it kind of speaks for itself. He's got a lot going on, which gives you the opportunity to really put him on anything in your breeding program. You just can't take your eyes off the guy.
And then at the same year, we bought into a couple of bucks, Willie and Waylon, which is out of Southern Express, and a great doe. And we believe to breed to the best. And that's the reason we bought into these 3 guys.
Willie and Waylon, they have the fundamentals to build any good breeding program. They have real good main beams, real symmetrical up tines, brow tines for days. The mass is consistent throughout the main beam, and they got a little bit of character with the kickers and some of the flyers that come off.
So far, we're in our 2nd year. James Butler and I have not sat down and settled up with our straw sales in the last year, but we're going to be doing that in the near future. It's been good. Willie he didn't produce as many straws as we'd liked, but the other 2 have been great at doing what we wanted them to do, and we still think we're in good shape with these 3 bucks. We bred these 3 pretty heavy last year, with the exception of Willie. We have a bunch of fawns on the ground out of the 3, and we're excited about the futures. Can't wait to see what the yearlings will look like next year.
All right, so you can get a hold of Don or Anthony. They're going to be able to help you out with the deer right here, but they're also going to be able to help you out with 3 bucks that are really famous in Texas. And those bucks are Willie, Waylon, and Enterprise. And although those bucks are not here, they're over at High Roller Whitetails, Don Gilchrist in G2 Ranch has a say-so on what's going on with them. So if you're interested in learning more about getting semen or offspring from Willie, Waylon, or Enterprise, get a hold of Don or Anthony. They'll help you out. The Deer Farming Channel is brought to you in part by New Dart, leading the industry in accuracy. Well, Katie, I am pretty impressed at the size of this pen, number one. I know that these got to be 3-year-olds, judging from the size of them, and I look at all this brush in here. I mean, what is the deal? Why do y'all have them in such a big pen with the brush?
Well, we put them in the big pen, that way they're fixing to rub out, that way they have all the brush to rub out on the little twigs to get in between their antlers and just go to town and clean them up.
Well, I mean, there's several of them like that guy right there. I mean, he's rubbing out, but they're pretty. I mean, they're nice deer, but as they come down here off this brush and down in here in this flat, you can see, I mean, they're clearly heading to feed, but I mean, there's some nice deer. How many you got in here?
We have 54 in here in this big pen.
Wow.
Yes,
okay.
sir.
You're pretty quick. These deer are going to be rubbed out. You're going to be moving these deer pretty soon, aren't you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and so we talked to Don about that and about the importance of pasture deer and how it improves the quality genetics on people's places.
Having big deer is very important because it does improve the property value of your farm, wows your people as they come see you, and at the end of the day, we all want to grow the best deer we can grow.
I'd like for you to tell folks what's going to happen to these deer.
So these deer have really great genetics, and we're releasing them into the pasture to introduce these new genetics into our existing herd already.
So this evening we have a couple deer that fit our profile to be released on the pasture. We're gonna go in and we're gonna knock a deer down. Katie's gonna use a new dart. She's gonna hit it with a little bit, about 2 cc's of MK. After it's knocked down, we'll take some data, we'll cut out the tag, we'll give it some antibiotics to make sure it'll be nice and strong for us in the pasture. And then we'll relocate it to one of our pastures in the backside of the ranch. And at that time, Katie will administer a reversal. It'll take about 30 minutes or so for the deer to really get its feet underneath it, and then it'll walk off, and we'll keep an eye on it probably for the next 7 to 10 days. And after that, it'll be pretty well acclimated to the property.
I love everything about it, learning something new every single day, and just everything's different every day.
I want to point something out. You know, we do a hunting show.
Yes, sir.
And people wind up thinking I'm a trophy hunter, and I've shot some big stuff, but I'm not a trophy hunter. I want to shoot the right deer. But I think trophy hunting is, I mean, guys that are shooting nothing but the big stuff, whatever it is, I think that's one reason how come it really puts a demand on these pasture deer like these 3-year-olds, because on the outside of these fences wind up just hammering the little young deer, okay? And the reason why they do that, because that's the biggest deer around there. Okay, and when they kill the genetics and they kill the genetics and they kill the genetics and they start from the big and they go down to the small, the only thing you've got left is breeding is small genetics. So if you want to improve the genetics on your piece of property, let those older, bigger genetic deer do the breeding. And so it's for that reason that landowners all over the country, not just Texas, but Oklahoma, Louisiana, all over, are dealing with deer breeders in order to get deer like this that are wonderful genetics and put in the pasture so they can introduce those genetics in the pasture, and it improves the quality of the person out there taking pictures, video, and the land value goes up. Think about that. And so as we sit here and we look at these, is there anybody in particular that you want to point out that you want to
Yes.
show them to me?
So this guy right here, 6004,
Yep.
he was little last year and he just blew up this year. We have a couple of guys who got sick on us, and so they're a little bit smaller, but they had a really good set of antlers on them last year.
So at 2 years old, you had some that blew up at 3.
Yes, sir.
And some that were really big at 2 that didn't do real well at 3.
Correct.
You know, that's the thing about the deer breeding business. I mean, we learn all this stuff. You would think that you've got a great 2-year-old and you think at 3 he's going to really be great. That's not necessarily the case all the time.
No,
is it?
sir. No, sir, it's
And so
not.
There's too many environmental things that can impact these deer. I mean, there's snakes and there's weather and there's sickness and there's they fight and they can get in trouble, and when they do, they can go backwards. So just because you see a big deer out in the pasture and you think, I'm going to let him go another year and he may get bigger, well, he may, but he may get smaller too.
Exactly.
Okay, so as y'all are looking at all these deer, I want you to realize that that in September in Texas, these deer get put in trailers and they get taken off and put in pastures, okay? And they're basically liberated is what we call that. And so if you've got a piece of property and you're interested in maybe getting some of these deer, these pasture deer from G2 whitetails, give them a telephone number to call.
Actually, if they're interested, give Don or Anthony a call themselves. We'd love to have you guys out here. We'd love to show you around our farm and see what kind of potential genetics we could introduce to your herds.
And folks, I'll tell you, the G2 Ranch is located out here in the South Texas brush country. It is a beautiful place with some phenomenal deer. But the best thing that I see out here besides phenomenal deer are phenomenal people. The team here is incredible. I mean, Katie, you and the girls working together and us being able to film all that, I think, what a deal. I mean, it's not very often that we wind up running into a team of girls that work together, that work well together, that are able to raise some really big deer, and it's all under the leadership of Don Gilchrist. So folks, if y'all want more information on G2 Ranch, you can get a hold of Don or Anthony. Make sure and call them up and come on out here and see what they've got going on. If you have any questions or comments about the show, you know what to do. Go ahead and post them below. We'll get back with you. My name is Keith Warren, and thank you for watching Deer and Wildlife Stories.